Pro wrestling is an ever-evolving industry, with encyclopedias being updated, documentaries being released, and relationships mended or destroyed. The attitudes and narratives of wrestling superstars begin to change. Individuals like the Ultimate Warrior, Bruno Sammartino, and others are brought back into prominence, while the history of some of the other bright characters are being washed away or changed. Some are pigeonholed and being remembered for that one event or that one specific moment in time. Others become as insignificant as a crossword answer. My job as PWP's resident historian is to remind you of the impact that these individuals and teams left on the industry. This is PW Profiles. Terry Gordy is regarded by many of his peers to be one of the greatest wrestlers to grace the squared circle. Starting wrestling at the age of 14, he had a long career up until a few years before his death, his untimely early death in 2001. What Terry Gordy is most famous for is being one member of the original trio of the Fabulous Freebirds, but he did so much more as a singles professional as well as a tag team wrestler with Dr. Death Steve Williams in the appropriately named Miracle Violence Connection. Now, I know you know who the Freebirds are, but do you have any knowledge on Terry Bam Bam Gordy?
Not particularly, no. I think I've seen him. I was doing like a Smoky Mountain thing. I got like a deep dive because I was interested in it, and I think I've seen him there. That's about all I know.
Yeah, so he's not really talked about a lot. Michael Hayes brings him up because, one of his best friends, one of the tag team partners throughout his whole career. But whenever WWE mentions the Freebirds, they tend to fixate on WCW era Fabulous Freebirds. So, late 80s, early 90s. And that's when they had Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. And I remember I was quite upset. I forget which video game it was, but they had the Freebirds in it. But you had Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin and Michael Hayes and Buddy the Rat Roberts. So they left out Terry Gordy, which I've never understood to this day. His son was Jesse of Jesse and Festus, so it's not like he would tell the WWE no. Father's likeness. I've never understood to this day why Terry Gordy doesn't get more respect. I think he's comparable to a Barry Windham or his partner Steve Williams. But as I mentioned, he started at 14. Most of his early career, especially starting in 79, 4 years after he debuted, the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes, Buddy Roberts. Michael Hayes was the mouthpiece. He really didn't get in the ring all that much, but when he did, it was usually in six-man. They helped incorporate the Freebird rule, which teams like the New Day and Demolition have used. Buddy Roberts was there just to get his ass kicked. People always wanted to see Buddy get thrown around. Terry Gordy was the big meat hoss. He was the bodyguard. He protected his brothers. And Terry Gordy wasn't a small man. 6'4", 289. And at that time, he was seen as a giant in some territories. As I said, most of his career was with the Freebirds. One of the more famous acts the Freebirds did was in '82 World Class Championship Wrestling down in Texas. They're feuding with the Von Erichs for many years, but it kicked off in '82 at the Star Wars pay-per-view. It was Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich, in a steel cage match. Michael Hayes was the referee. He was seen as friends of the Von Erichs at the time. What happened was Terry Gordy was out there with Michael. Michael Hayes took out Ric Flair, tried having Kerry Von Erich pin him, cheat to win the title. Kerry wouldn't do it. Michael turned away. Ric Flair hit him from behind. As it goes in wrestling, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy both thought that Kerry Von Erich did it. So Terry Gordy slammed Kerry Von Erich's head into the steel cage with the door. This kicked off a long-term feud between the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, to which the Texas promotion tried to rekindle on many occasions with different iterations of the Freebirds. But in my opinion, it didn't get any better than the original three of Hayes, Gordy, Roberts. Besides this WCCW, he appeared in All Japan Pro Wrestling, which is where he and Steve Williams teamed up to the Miracle Violence Connection. He was the Triple Crown Heavyweight Champion on 2 occasions there. The Freebirds spent a little bit of time in the WWF in '84. They were actually going to be involved in the Rock and Wrestling Connection, especially with how much music and the Freebirds are connected.
Right.
They reformed the Freebirds in the NWA, which then became WCW. It was at this time where it was Jimmy Garvin slowly started taking over. He was always seen as the 4th Freebird in Texas, but I think it's a shame that he and Hayes continued. This is when he and Terry Gordy and Dr. Death started teaming up. They feuded with the Steiners. They actually beat the Steiners, which was huge at the time. This match would be comparable to a Brock and Bobby Lashley match. Just people throwing each other around, no real regard for each other, suplex after suplex. They, at the time, they had the Japanese and the WCW tag titles. There was a small reunion between the Freebirds and a territory called GWF. Then this is when Terry Gordy's career started, kind of going down because of personal demons of his. He appeared in Smoky Mountain. He appeared in UWF. He appeared in USWA. He was even in ECW, where he challenged Raven for the ECW heavyweight title, where he was called the internationally recognized #1 contender. He teamed with Tommy Dreamer, and he had a match, which was the Battle of the Bam Bams against Bam Bam Bigelow. He made quick appearances in the WWF as the Executioner. This was the guy that tried to help Mankind take out The Undertaker. Vince McMahon had such respect for Terry Gordy that the reason he put the mask on him, it said, is because McMahon had doubts that Terry Gordy could still compete effectively, so they put the mask to protect Gordy so that if this were the case, his legacy would not be tainted. If Gordy had been able to compete, then eventually he would have been able to be unmasked. He ended his career going into death matches in Japan, and then eventually teaming with another badass in Dan Severn. And that's about where Terry Gordy's career ended off. He's been referenced a couple times by Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes always wishes him a happy birthday on Twitter. He was brought up by Edge when he said that Edge and Randy Orton would face the Fabulous Freebirds, and then he reminded Michael that Terry Gordy had been dead. It's just, as I said before, Terry Gordy, no matter what Terry Gordy did in the ring, he was a top performer, whether it be tag team or singles. He had matches with a who's who. The Steiner brothers, the Legion of Doom, Ted DiBiase, Kerry Von Erich. The list just goes on and on. And for this original Freebird to now be seen as the 4th Freebird, I think it's a shame. And I think if you would have went back in time and told Terry Gordy this, then he would have taken wrestling historians to Bad Street. Fabulous Freebirds are one of my favorite tag teams, and Terry Gordy being my favorite in the group. As I said, Triple Crown champion, All Japan Tag Champion with Steve Williams and Stan Hansen, multiple time tag team champion throughout the territories with Michael Hayes. It is with this reason that one of the original 3 Freebirds is the 3rd PW profile.